To Bret Baier last night on his fine show. He might have wished, in retrospect, he didn't show up at all. Take a look at this over the issue of leaks.
You said in the memos, I said I don't do sneaky things, I don't leak, I don't do weasel moves. But, I mean, we can argue what a leak is, but that's a leak, isn't it?
It's not.
Town without a motorcade.
Oh.
Okay, I apologize for that. The exchange really was riveting. We dropped the ball on that. So, Bret is with me right now, special report, but he's now ripping his mic off and leaving, which would be understandable. But good to have you. You know what's interesting about that? First of all, are you a lawyer by any chance?
No.
Okay,
I play one on TV.
All right, well, it was really, really good. But what was fascinating about that is this idea, no, I didn't leak. I gave it to someone who leaked it. But isn't that a leak?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I wasn't really expecting, Neil, that he was going to go down that road to say it wasn't a leak. But I had the kind of FBI protocol that he signed in his employment agreement that defines what leaking is. There is a lot of investigation that is going on currently about this and how those memos were handled by the former FBI director, including the Inspector General. And he said last night that he has talked to the Inspector General about this very issue. Now,
that got me thinking, especially with the Inspector General citing Andy McCabe and his multiple lies to investigators as warrant of at least a criminal inquiry. Had me wondering whether those two are going to be pitted against one another, the former number 1 and 2 at the FBI.
I mean, I think that's very possible. Just looking at what the IG has already put out on Andrew McCabe, saying that Comey and McCabe have different views of the same thing. McCabe says he told Comey that he was going to release this information to the Wall Street Journal. Comey says no, he doesn't recall that. And there are 4 other instances when it comes to McCabe. I think another thing that was fascinating was the decision to reopen the Clinton email case 11 days before the election comes as Andrew McCabe is on top of that, but authorities in New York say that they had known that those emails were on Anthony Weiner's server, if you remember all the ins and outs of that, for weeks prior to that decision. So I think their backs were up against the wall. And again, that's McCabe and Comey making those decisions. You
got into this back and forth issue. He was treating Donald Trump and his surrogates the same as Hillary Clinton and her surrogates, and it was very, very clear that was not the case. And this has fed a sort of a damning view the president has had of this whole investigation, and the fact that they had it out for him. That maybe there was a good reason why he was paranoid, because people were just behind his shoulder. And I'm wondering what you got a sense of Comey's thinking on that, because as he said, had none of this happened, he'd still be the FBI director today, and still with those strong opinions of the man. He has very few kind words for today. It would be in a different world.
That's true. If he hadn't been fired, that's why I wanted to kind of dismount on that question.
Right.
If he hadn't been fired, he said, yes, I would still be FBI director tonight. Despite being on this press tour and this media blitz on this book saying that the president is unfit and not moral and should be voted out of office if people vote their values and principles. These are all things he said on this media tour. So I wanted to get that perspective. And his sense that Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, the 2 FBI agents, texting back and forth, and we have new text from them now, and their animus to President Trump. If he knew back then, what would he do? And he said he would remove them from the investigation. But he doesn't say that their work product throughout the investigations should be questioned. So there's a bit of a disconnect there, too.
And his own point of view on the president. And you think about it, given the people who have now since left, you mentioned Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, Andrew McCabe, of course, James Comey, and all these other officials who work at other networks. So they talked about James Clapper and these others who have very dim views of the president now, or Donald Trump now. Now, they didn't publicly state that at the time in their positions, but we know and knew where they were coming from. I'm just wondering whether it gets back to the veracity information we're going to get and whatever ensues from the investigation. Comey seems to be saying impeccable thoughts of Bob Mueller, but it does make you wonder.
It does, and I think that there are lawmakers up on Capitol Hill who are pursuing that line of questioning, Neil. And I think the other thing that struck a lot of people was that the former FBI director didn't know who had funded specifically the dossier. That is the basis of a lot of the investigation, the basis of the FISA application to spy on Carter Page. He didn't know specifically it was the DNC and Hillary Clinton.
That's incredible. I mean, that on the face value is just, I was incredulous.
I actually didn't expect that response either. I had follow-ups going down a different exit ramp and then had to like put it in reverse and say, wait a second, what did you just say? Because I didn't understand that either.
What did you personally think of him when he left? How did it go?
You know, the rapport was fine. He was very apologetic about being late in traffic. There was a lot of traffic yesterday. At first, when I heard the word 5 minutes before the show, I thought he was just trying to ice the kicker or something. But he was very gracious with his time, and during the commercial break said that they were tough but fair questions. So yeah, that's what I hope for.
Well, it was the best of all the interviews I've seen. I think I've seen most of them. But I'm just wondering where this goes. Is it your sense, he's selling a lot of books, you know, that I understand, but has it moved the needle at all?
Well, I think if you're Bob Mueller, Neil, and you're looking at all these interviews and you're looking at this book, I mean, you can't be happy that this is all playing out in a public sphere. I mean, I assume that Comey would be a witness for Mueller should he move forward with something. And you wonder how much he has taken a hit on some of the things he said just by the bias that perhaps is indicated in his decision-making based on what he says now.
Separately, real quickly, you know, this House intelligence report releasing their views on the whole Russian collusion thing, nothing there, et cetera. Democrats, you know, dissented from that, but now we're hearing that Nancy Pelosi says the House Democrats will continue to investigate Russian meddling in the elections, that they're not done with this. So this is nowhere done, period, is it?
No. I mean, the real one that everyone's waiting for here in Washington is Mueller, and when he finishes his investigation. I think Trey Gowdy told Chris Wallace a couple weeks ago that he didn't think the House intel process was complete because they didn't interview everybody. They didn't have access to all of the key players like Bob Mueller does. So you can come to your own conclusions based on the documents and what you have, the evidence you have, but they didn't have everybody. And so they're waiting on the big kahuna, Bob Mueller.
Yeah, and so we wait and wait and wait. It was a great job, my friend. Thank you very, very much.